Hello, everyone. This is Oakwalker. I am here with Stronghorse, my dearest and bestest friend, and this is Earth Medicine for the Soul. We are a podcast where we talk about issues related to learning access points, fundamental philosophies, ancient traditions for accessing and getting to know universal language and universal knowing of things, and how ancient shamans may have practiced to learn the things that they learned, so much so, uh, before we had all this technology and newspapers and books and stuff. They were amazing at being able to transmit information from one town to another, from one person to another. They could do astonishing things, one might say almost telepathically. And it is with those things in mind that we sort of began our shamanic paths, or at least we began our shamanic paths, and and those paths led us into considering things that were um, well before that were basic skills between humans long before the Industrial Revolution and the disassociation of our spirits with Creator caused us to basically forget a lot of this stuff. So I was thinking about all this stuff in one of those moments this week before I got out of bed, because for me, that's generally a period of halfway between the dreaming and the awakening of being a part of the day. And I was thinking about, the things that we do that help keep us in touch with that spirit of creation, or the creator spirit. The things that we do that keep us in that sense of belonging and feeling like we are where we're supposed to be. It's a sense of not just wonder and peace, but it's also a sense of security and belonging in the place that you're in. I know my friend Mateo likes to say things like, if you want to know where you're supposed to be, pick up your feet and look at the dirt underneath them, because you're always exactly where you're supposed to be. And it is those very 2 feet that got you there, whether you, whether you think that you're in the right place or not. So this led me to the kinds of practices that I do to reaffirm that place or that position in the universe, that knowing that I am perfectly associated and positioned where I belong. It's a sense of belonging. And that led me to the process of centering, which is something that I do often during the day. I do it a lot. It's any time that things seem to be getting flaky or out of control or stressful, there's a process that I can go through. And at first, it took me a long time to get to understand it. And it took me a lot of practice of certain things that I had to do to make it feel real. But once you get that, once you have that connection established and you're comfortable with that connection, then it can happen in just moments. It's simply a reorientation of your mind and your heart, and pulling those two things together. So I thought that we were going to talk today about centering and how that's possible. So the best I
So,
have,
so can you,
yeah,
excuse me, can you talk a little bit about exactly what you go through? I mean, kind of give us an idea of what the procedure is for you to do the centering.
yes. In the morning, it begins with a simple process of just acknowledging, grounding my feet into the earth, grounding my center. I like to I like to imagine that I'm sending my essence or source energy down into the earth to anchor it deep within the earth mother. Just anchor it with her, and then bring that all back up, and then go to the star energy or the star brethren energies and make that connection. And that connection meets right there, right in the heart center. And at that point, then I feel like I'm in the place in the universe where I belong. I am now associated both with the gravitational earth energies and the electromagnetic energies of the sky and the spirit and the air, right? So there's earth and air. And then on the mesa, of course, or in most medicine wheels, then you have your east and your west. And on my east, I have the association with all the ancestors. And on the west, I have the association with the waters and the creatures of the water and the emotional sphere. So all of that, the earth, the physical, the spiritual, the intellectual, and the emotional, all come together within that medicine wheel and anchor right there. So that is a philosophical reality that literally takes place in my own heart. Um, and that took a lot of practice. It took years of daily, doing this routine of in the morning going back in and centering, because that's the center. So centering all of that together, those four elements, the earth, the air, the fire, and the water, all together and coming in, and that makes me the center of the universe, essentially, which sounds narcissistic, but it really isn't like that. Because I'm the center of my own universe, even though, in spite of all of the ways that that can be perverted, that's still basically true when you're a person that's in the universe. You can only perceive it outward from the center of your own being.
Yeah,
Um,
can I jump in for a second?
yeah, please do. I'm flailing here.
You know, try to ground this down into um, a different reality so that we can sort of have comparisons. If I read through the Bible quite often, or if not all the time, they speak of God in terms of the Spirit of God. The
Mhm.
Spirit of God did this. The Spirit of God came upon it's constantly about that. Like they were there was an intimate, palatable knowing of God's presence through the Spirit of Him, called
Mhm.
Holy Spirit,
Mhm.
however you want to paraphrase it.
Yep.
Shamanism and all this and everything that you're just describing, I think is a means to an end in terms of trying to get to that same place within a world that is not as near close to what it used to be.
Mhm.
Back
Mhm.
then, everything, it's like one of my favorite sayings. One of my students one time was talking about the guy that Letsu, the guy that came up with Taoism, and he said, "Well, the reason he came up with Taoism is the fastest thing on the planet was an ox." Which I thought, God, that is really profound.
Well, there's
And
something to that, but anyway, go ahead.
well, I mean, so the challenge we have is to create that space within ourselves to recreate that same opportunity for ourselves in terms of being able to experience the Spirit of God.
Mhm.
But it's harder for us because of the massive amount of noise that is
Exactly.
in the atmosphere. I mean, it's crazy. And so that's why you get a lot of people who look at this as some sort of inconsequential discipline, or a practice of someone who's really lost and trying to find themselves, whatever. And all of that's probably true, but the essence is that we're trying to create a space within which we can palpably have an intimate connection with spirit, and primarily the spirit of God,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's what we're seeking. We've chosen to go there through Mother Earth,
Yep.
and experience the spirit world of Grandmother Earth, because we believe that she is connected to the Spirit of God in a creative, co-creative place. And so if we can find that avenue of awareness, it allows us to tap into this creative life force that's coming from the creator in a way that enhances our sense of self, and it creates substance of this belonging.
Hmm.
There's a real knowing and a real feeling of belonging and being of service to something greater than yourself that far surpasses anything that's being put out through the call it the industrial
Yeah,
techno world.
yeah, the
And
complex.
And in my opinion, every aspect of artificial intelligence is simply an attempt to create an imposter presentation of what organic intelligence does already. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying there? In other words, there's that they don't have this avenue of approach that we're speaking of through shamanic. So they're creating their own
Right. The
mythology
techno
world.
matrix is trying to
Yes.
emulate
Yes.
something that they can't even touch, can't even
Emulate it. That's
feel.
right. That's right. Exactly. And so so the question becomes which is more beneficial, and I guess that question eventually is going to be answered. Um, but right now, what we're trying to do, particularly with this program that you and I are putting together, is
Hmm.
we're trying to say to the people, look, there's opportunity out here for you, if you're willing to open yourself up to greater sense of possibilities, and to just be willing to go into the unknown without any fear, without any intrepidation, without any doubt.
Hmm.
Shout out doubt,
Hmm.
and experience for yourself this avenue of approach. And I think centering is the key to that. And everything you're talking about, what you go through, that because you got to create that space of quiet.
Yes.
You got to within you got to have that silence.
Yep. And here's where that also gets to, because the trigger, that that point where during the day, once I've established that, early on in the day, once I've established that place, you can get back to it real fast. And the trigger to do that with is literally the path through humility. At that point, where you see that your things don't seem to be perfectly in control, or things don't seem to be they're just chaotic and noisy all around you. You get to that point of peace, and it's when you get to that humility of saying, all right, I'm listening again. Here we go. I'm going to drop all this. I have to do this. I will be back, and get back down into, all right, let me listen for a second here. Just a tiny moment of peace so that I can recenter and get back to a place of knowing, belonging, feeling okay with where I'm at. That's what, and yeah, so that's centering
That's the
basically.
key. I mean, that's the key right there, is being at peace and being okay with where you're at. You know,
Hmm.
um, a lot of people preach that through being in present time, but very few people have a clue how to be in present time.
Yeah.
Because it's first of all, it's multidimensional. present time is a multi-dimensional experience, right?
Right. So
You and
that's
I
like, oh
both know
shit.
that. It's like, yikes. Okay, well, I didn't see that coming. Um, but that's I mean, I think that's really the problem with what's tormenting the soul of the
Mm,
human in this day and time is that it doesn't, you just can't cope with all of the massive amounts of noise and frequency disruption and all of the lies and the misinformation and the stuff coming at you. It's
mhm.
it's just
And the
way too much.
shoulds, all of those shoulds. You should be this, you should be that. You need to, hey, if you want to be successful, just
Yeah,
never let the idea that you're not rich enter your head. It's uh, just things like
yeah,
that.
it's really insane. I mean, it's so. I mean, at some point the pendulum's going to have to swing back the other way.
Oh
It
yeah,
just is, and
absolutely.
I mean, and I think we're probably in at the beginning, front end of that. I saw someplace recently where somebody was saying that we're right in the middle of the great shift. And that
Hmm.
the third, fifth dimension starting to overlay third dimension, and and I keep waiting and trying to sense and perceive it. And I might be and not be totally aware that I am because of all this other noise that's going on
Hmm.
around me. The only times that I've been able to do it where it was just cut and dried was out in the desert.
Yeah,
You know,
or in the
you,
or in the
and you-
woods for me, someplace where, all
yeah,
I can hear is crickets.
yeah. When you're out there with nature and it's. I mean, I love to tell the story. When I was coming back, I was driving back from Mexico one time, and I was, I was driving an old Suburban. I owned a '98 Suburban, and I'd been down to my house down in San Sebastian del Oeste, and as I was approaching the United States border, I realized I had a whole carload of elders, spirit elders in my car. I could feel them, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
"This is weird. What are you guys doing here?" And I mean, I literally started approaching the border, and they all went, "Yeah, we're gone," and they all left. We're not going there, man.
Yeah.
And and it's for the very reason that we're talking about. They're not interested in going into all this noise. It's
Yeah.
distracting, disrupting, and uncomfortable for them.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's why I always loved Mexico because it was so easy to get into this place we're talking about.
Yeah.
It was
San
so easy, and it's just it's of course it's more and more becoming Americanized now, but
Yeah,
um,
since NAFTA. But so I used to have to commute from Mexico into the United States to go to work, which was a long drive. Rosarito Beach, where I was living, is 30 miles south of the border. And the border, that is that's the busiest border crossing in the world, at San Ysidro near San Diego. And you can wait for hours there. But I remember one day it wasn't bad and I got through pretty easy and I was feeling pretty good until I got out of that border crossing. And now I'm on the American freeway, right? I-5. And I could just feel myself go, and my foot hit the floor and I was going, I gotta get to work, like this. And all I did was cross the fucking border. And it was just like I just drove into this and I did that for 30 seconds and then literally took my foot off the gas, started to pull over. I was gonna go, holy shit, I don't know if I can do this today anymore. It's
it's
just like
I
walking
totally
into.
get that, man. I totally get that. I'd spent a whole month down in Mexico one time, and I mean, God, I mean, I really came unwound, and And when I flew back, I had a friend of mine pick me up at the airport. And I remember we left the airport and we hit the freeway, and I was like, "Oh my God, we're gonna die!"
You live like
It's
this?
like, "Please slow down." And she's like, "I can't slow down. I'm on that freeway." I was like, "Oh God." I mean, it's really, I mean, it's
I
just
know.
mind-boggling, man.
And there's a key there because no matter, even if you're okay, so you're beautifully centered, and you're in this pure space and you're in touch with God and everything's beautiful, but it this is, I guess, is what protection is for. And I was vulnerable, I mean, I just didn't even consider that it would be like walking into a cloud that was gonna,
Right.
get all through my whole being and suddenly turn me into a raging maniac. And that's what I
Like
credit the
that.
connection with, is that I was able to become aware of it and then get back out, and just go, okay, well, I'm not spending the next 24 hours feeling like this. That's just bullshit.
It really is, it's a major discipline that I have to admit I'm not that good at. I mean, even our elders on the night were saying you guys need to start meditating more. And
Yeah, yeah,
I
I
thought,
think they were
yeah,
right too.
yeah, and because and I think that the more and more crazy it gets, and I think we got a lot more crazy coming up than we can possibly
Hmm.
imagine.
Yeah, I think
The
so.
deeper we got to be able to hold our space within
Hmm.
ourselves, and not only for ourselves but for our fellow human beings.
Yeah,
Um, and that's vitally important.
that's big.
And I'm not just saying that about us, but I'm saying that about everybody. If you're listening to this and you even have a smidgen of spiritual awareness, you need to really understand that this is a time where you really got to focus on holding your space, not
Hmm.
just for yourself, but for your fellow man, because this is where the rubber meets the road here,
Yeah,
and and I think that sort of discipline is going to help bring in the fifth world. Don't you agree?
yeah, I think that, and whoa, so much to touch there. Yes, I do agree, and that in the more of us that do that, because the fifth world, I believe, is inevitable. The question is, how much is it going to take to draw it back together again? Because it comes in, world changes, they're going to be chaotic. They're going to have to move old paradigms out of the way. They're going to look scary and bad. And the more of us that the the thing that keeps going through my head for this talk is that you have to be that calm within the eye of the storm, that the storm
Right.
rages around you and you are that fixed point. And it's not just for you, it's for anyone around you who's going to see that anchoring that you're doing, and be able to take that perception and move it into their own selves, so that you have now a group of anchored people nearby, and that should spread out. And the more of that we do, the more people who do that, the less chaotic it's going to end up being, and the less painful it's going to end up being. And it's an unfortunate reality that, no matter how good we do this, it's going to be painful anyway, somewhat.
Yeah, I think, but I think like if you consider it from the quantum string theory, the
Mhm.
how that ripples through the through the
Overall consciousness of
ethereal
everything.
world. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
the a calm, solid, loving heart has way more influence
Hmm.
than the crazy energy that's trying to
Yeah,
cope with chaos. I
yeah.
mean, it's night and day, man.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and I think there's more and more people out there um, that are getting it, that are doing that. I mean, maybe consciously or unconsciously. There's a lot more people who are saying, I've had enough. I mean, I don't know if this is
Yeah,
an appropriate example, but if you look at Portland, where they're all meeting the National Guard frog suits,
I love those guys.
you know, I
The
mean, I
naked
mean,
bike
I,
ride,
that
dancing
is so
unicorns.
brilliant, man. Like, yeah, you guys look like you're really badass. Hey, you like my frog suit? And that's got to have. We literally the impact of that. Because now I was reading somewhere where people are like trying to get frog suits for Halloween and they're sold out.
Yeah.
You can't find one anywhere, right? Well, that's kind of string theory,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know.
I'm with
So,
them all the way. I have a ghillie suit. I'll go as Bushman. We'll be fine.
well, I mean, I guess to wrap this up,
Huh.
the centering is very much an individual choice. This
Uh-huh.
is a place where I mean, I wanted you to give your example of how you do it. I have different procedures that I don't really look at as centering, but like every morning I get up and I walk my dog back to the back fence of my ranch. I mean
Yep.
that's if I'm out there walking or
Same
and
difference.
when I go work out, when I go
Mhm.
into the gym, that I'm centering.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm focusing on me, I'm focusing on taking care of me, and I'm doing it actively with a very conscious intent to maintain and improve my health. And that's centering, you know. I'm not just letting myself be scattered to the
Yeah.
wind and trying to figure out how the hell am I supposed to cope with all this shit.
Yeah.
It's just people have to just find their own peace and
Hmm.
make that their own discipline. Don't you agree?
Yes, I do. It's like the find your groove, and wherever that is, and whenever, yeah, it's this is not about greed and it's not about selfishness. It's about coming to a point where you're at peace with yourself, where you're at ease with yourself, because from that perspective, that's when spirit can reach you. You
Right.
have to you have to get within yourself, bring your heart and your head together, and then spirit can reach you. And that requires some kind of centering and getting into your own self. I don't know how better to describe it. And I'm sure that once this talk is over, I'm going to go, oh, yeah, now I know how to say that. But
Well, that's why we have more meetings. Yeah, real quick before we go, one thing I've had a lot of arguments or discussions, I'd say, with some traditional Native Americans who, you know, challenged me on the rounds that we would do with it in our sweat lodge because we would do the first round would be for yourself, second
Mhm,
round would be for others, third round would be what's called a giveaway, and then the fourth round would be prayers for the collective,
mhm.
and they thought that was kind of narcissistic of me to be doing a round for
Beginning with
myself. And I
yourself.
say,
Yeah.
yeah, and I said, look, if you don't take care of yourself, you're no good to anybody.
Yeah.
You're not,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that's truth. I mean, if you don't have something to give, if you don't take care of your energy, if you don't focus on yourself and your own health, you can't. What you're doing is sucking energy off everybody else.
Right.
That's what you're doing.
Right.
You
When the
know,
when the purpose
so
is for you to clear yourself and become that hollow bone so that spirit can communicate through you. I mean, there's a big difference there, and you have to hollow out the bone. When I sage the room, I sage myself first, you know, because otherwise I have this clean room and this chaotic noise being, going through, cluttering it all up again. I'm not going to
yeah,
do
no,
that.
it's I know it's absolutely. I mean, it's a real thin line between and that distinction is when you really understand the difference between ego and spirit,
Yeah,
because if you're coming at it from a place of look how awesome I am, that's ego. If you're coming from a
right.
place of I'm going to hollow myself out so I can be of greater service to the collective and to the
Yeah,
creator,
yeah. That's
there you go.
yeah.
You
That's
know, that's
anti-ego.
totally. And
And
if spirit could come through you, you can then serve the spirit of others through just being around, just being you're holding
yeah,
the space, allowing that process to work its magic, because
yeah,
when
letting
at the end
yourself
of the day, like we
radiate.
said, it's all about co-creation, man.
Yeah, exists. Well, that was
All
excellent.
right.
I think that we do have to close about now. And I would like to thank everybody for coming. We are Stronghorse and Oakwalker. We've just completed another episode of Earth Medicine for the Soul. You can find us online at earth-ems.org. EMS is capitalized, and so is the E in Earth. Just about whatever you put in there will get you to us. So go check us out, and thank you all very, very much.
Peace.